Well, here we go with week one of Tales of Atonement's Try Not to Get Demonetized for Talking About Queer Stuff month. As such, I'm going to be talking about certain things that many might not be comfortable with. And if that's you, I urge you to be respectful and find another video. Without disrespect, but as a queer person myself, I'm excited to talk openly about these sorts of things, probably for the first time in my life. Today, I'm introducing you to a relationship held by 4 individuals in monomyth, and we'll be discussing polyamory, bisexuality, what those terms mean, what they meant then, and how do I explore these things within the scope of being in medieval times. So, let me get started with the first most obvious question. What is polyamory, and how is it different from swinging or an open relationship? So an open relationship or swinging is usually defined as having multiple, typically monogamous relationships that are maintained separately but often intermingle for more personal reasons. Comparing this to polyamory is a lot more simple than some may think. Polyamory is usually defined as a group of relationships that are typically in tandem, that is to say, romantically, physically, and emotionally. A polyamorous relationship, or polycule, is usually a group of adults that are in a relationship with each other to some extent. Now, it's never required or should even be implied that everyone in a polycule is physically involved. Actually, the structure is entirely up to the consenting parties and may be any kind of variations, though there are some common terms. For instance, the hinge. A hinge is a person within a polycule that the others are in a committed relationship with. In this group, there are a few to be sure. Cassandra is a hinge between her husband, Matthias, and Timothy. On the other hand, this is also a role that Edna plays between Tim and Matthias. But then lastly, there's another hinge between Edna, Cassandra, and Timothy in Matthias. Thruple, or triad, is another common term. As context should suggest, this is a group of 3 people who are in a committed, ethical, non-monogamous relationship and may be of any kind of sexual or gender identity. There are not really any more or less common types of triads, but using it has become an even more common trope among queer authors looking to solve the love triangle problem. What's that? Well, while a lot of typically monogamous people tend to find the will they won't they of a love triangle exciting, it almost always leads to an abusive power dynamic between the 2 individuals competing for one person's attention. It's common in things like Twilight, anime as a whole, and a lot of other popular media, including video games. In these, we usually see that the one being forced to make a potentially harmful choice is usually a woman, and her prospective loves may sometimes resort to dubious means to win her affections, which also tends to frame the woman as a prize more than a person. So now I can picture some of you are thinking, well, this is medieval Scotland, not ancient Greece. Did they really do this sort of thing back then? Well, the short answer is yes. The Scottish people have always been very inclusive when it comes to the beliefs of others. It makes perfect sense that Tim and his family would move to Scotland to escape the oppression they faced in England because of the long history of accepting foreigners, sexualities, and religions of all types. In fact, the closest large city to Alden is Glasgow, which is and always has been considered one of the top cities in the UK for those who are interested in multiple partners. And according to a 2019 article by Kirsty McKenzie of Glasgow Live, aside from the great food, stunning architecture, and world-class music, a dating app designed for swingers got 2,321 members just from Glasgow alone. The next closest city was Edinburgh, Scotland's capital, with only 1,378. Talk about an offset. Oh well, maybe that's why Ellen Ruddle of Glasgow Guardian believes it's time to end the stigma surrounding polyamory. And I agree. It's a practice that has existed for a long time on the outskirts of society, but usually conjures up images of potentially abusive scenarios of harem-like relationships and fundamentalist sister wives. But why the push? It seems that during the 2019 pandemic, there was a steep decline in offline opportunities of meeting people. No kidding. And this led to the surge in curious couples and singles exploring polyamory. This rising prevalence reflects the enjoyment and benefit many people derive from having multiple partners or romantic relationships, just as we benefit from maintaining strong emotional connections socially. Now, suggesting an open relationship to a partner may be anxiety-inducing and requires vulnerable, honest communication. And as a polyamorous person myself, I can't stress that fact enough. From the offset, as a successful, ethical, non-monogamy is inherently founded on the establishment of clear boundaries. This may be simply who or how many people to involve in a pre-established relationship, how intimate new connections may be, what constitutes cheating, or how to mitigate feelings of jealousy. This frank and introspective conversation about boundaries and preferences sets the precedent that may allow for better communication through a relationship than between equivalent monogamous couples. Monogamy has been shown to place pressure on romantic partners to be constantly available, both physically and emotionally, which may cause strain on a relationship if one partner is busier due to work, distance, or simply needing space. Rather than expecting your partner to be present all the time, seeking the support and intimacy provided by romantic relationships from multiple partners may alleviate this pressure. Similarly, polyamory allows for more and varied connection within a relationship, as different individuals can fulfill different needs, and the excitement of getting to know potential partners via dating can continue within a long-term relationship. However, although more partners may mean more reliably available plus ones, it may also mean couples spend less time together. Due to the constraints of careers, university, and the accompanying workload, social lives, and unending to-do lists, it's difficult enough to navigate dating one person, aligning time and busy schedules. Further dividing this scarce time between multiple partners means even less time spent as a twosome, leaving partners feeling neglected and distant, particularly if one pairing within the polycule is seeing substantially more of each other than the others. Considerable external challenges face polyamorous relationships, largely from social stigma, as individuals have to come out to friends and family about having or wanting multiple partners, incurring judgment and sometimes prejudice. As society is structured around heteromonogamy, polycules are denied any legal recognition. Many places in the world, including Scotland, still see bigamy as an actual crime that can incur fines or even jail time. And actually, queer people can find a lot of acceptance in polyamorous relationships as well, regardless if they're transgender, gay, lesbian, or bisexual, or even omni or pansexual. But what is all of that? Okay. From Oxford Language, bisexuality is the quality or characteristic of being physically or romantically attracted to both men and women, or to more than one sex or gender. A commonly asked question that follows to this is, how is that different from pansexuality? Pansexuals are usually physically, romantically, or emotionally attracted to people of all genders, or regardless of their sex or gender identity and expression. But I'll get into more of those terms next week. And, well, it's already established canon that Matthias was romantically involved with Sir John prior to ever meeting Timothy or Edna, or even to Sandra for that matter. As close as these four became, and as quickly, while Matthias may never have the same level of love for Timothy as he ever did for Sir John, he's not abashed or ashamed to express his caring for the English tailor, or the women in his life as well. And you can tell by the expression on his face in this picture, which I think is completely spot on. Kama Bogbog did a great job with these line arts in really capturing the emotion behind each character. Timothy is shy but accepting that he's come to love so many people around him, and Matthias is happy to find in his heart to be more open and free with his love once more. Cassandra loves her husband's veracity, but also Tim's gentle romanticism, and Edna feels the ability to cut loose from the strict confines that she's lived under all her life in England. Four loving, consenting adults enjoying their lives, raising their families as a unit, and helping their village prosper and grow. Now, where's the harm in that? Okay, I know, inevitably someone's going to say, what about kids? Well, first, they didn't really have solid forms of contraception back then, not in large quantities. Though some witches were known to have potions, that sort of thing. These are even outlined in the Christian Bible. This may be one thing that made Edna problematic back home. I know we've already discussed one of the big problems being the jealousy others felt for the clothes that she and Tim produced. But Tim also did mention that Edna does things with herbs and flowers. This could be any ambiguous potions of the time, or even things like seasoning food. But even so, a village like Alden would be concerned with growing as much as possible in order to maintain itself. After all, Martin and his friends are only still the first generation born there. And as for their older children, well, none of them really know the extent of what their parents do together. And I feel that's healthy no matter what sort of relationship parents have. Children only need to understand that their parents love, respect, and communicate with each other in order to teach them what healthy bonds look like. This can be done in any kind of ethical relationship, whether it's monogamous and heteronormative, monogamous queer, or any kind of polycule. And that's why I've chosen to recognize this type of relationship dynamic for Pride Month, apart from recognizing Matthias's queer identity. I hope you'll continue to enjoy our stories to see how these characters play out. By the time episode 3 rolls around, you'll start to see how these relationships develop, how the children all strengthen their bonds as friends and continue to grow as people. But let's look at this. There are some slight differences this week to a couple of the outfits, but that's to say there's no reason why all of them have just one, like a lot of early 90s cartoon characters. Remember Doug? He had an entire closet of just that one outfit, and that was a pretty common trope back then in animation. I'm still using the same color scheme though, because that's where the characters should be most recognizable. Remember the color matching from the Disney project? This background that I used is meant to mimic the colors of not only bisexuality, but also the polyamory pride flag that became popularized in 2022 by Red Howl. Over 30,000 polyamorous people chose this design to represent us. It's had a couple of iterations. This one from Jim Evans was the previously most used one and was designed back in 2014. Although personally, I like the design by Open Sophia's that replaced Evans' pie symbol for the infinity heart. It's still kind of present in Howell's design, but a solid yellow heart instead. For this reason, I had our artists draw their hands forming the infinity heart as an added touch. If you line it up properly within the background, it even falls right in the center. Which polyam flag design did you like best? Comment and let me know. You know, with all these shades and colors, everything from their hair to their skin is unique to each other. Edna and Tessa both have green eyes, but one is dark and the other is light. Brown and blonde hair on Tim and Matthias respectively, with Matthias's blue eyes and Tim's brown. I think the only thing that could make them a little more unique would be if Matthias had brown eyes and Tim blue. But with the brown hair and eyes were chosen for Tim to make him a very common looking man. Whereas I wanted Martin to have the sort of stereotypical hero look as I begin to play with the concepts of what monolith actually means. A hero's journey, cyclical, like many traditions in life as well. I want to see, right along with you, if Martin is capable of maintaining the tenets of a true romantic hero, or if it becomes something darker and more Byronic. Maybe we'll go into that more as time goes on. I feel like every week I outdo myself once again, and this time is no different. I'm always excited to bring you guys the next project. Sometimes it's even palpable. Also, I'd like to get back into doing some live streams, but no one really seemed to get into the last couple vids I did on the topics. So, I wanted to ask you guys something. Is there anything you'd like to see? I have an idea for doing maybe a live stream of Civilization 5 where I'd use Scotland to win a science victory, starting with the capital being Alden. This would be me and Imel as Scotland and England, respectively, versus 4 computer-controlled opponents in Greece, Italy, France, and Spain. The other idea would be a Skyrim run. The channel could choose Martin, Madeline, or Shane, and then I would run through the main storyline of Skyrim, making character-appropriate choices. Arguably, Shane would be the cheesiest run. He's quite literally stealth archer material. Yeah, actually, now that I think of it, that Skyrim Nebula, it has blue, red, and green in it. That's actually perfect. Madeline would be a mage run, Martin would be a fighter run, and Shane a stealth run. We could see which one of the Monomyth trio would defeat Alduin the fastest. Oh yeah, this just became my new desktop. In fact, if you'd like to use it too, go over to the Patreon and I'll make it available for a public download. I'm putting on the final touches now with Edna's shading. It just made sense to do them all in a line from left to right. That way too, we didn't immediately pair off the already married couples. On another note, June is going to be a busy month for us. Not only are there the weekly projects, there's also a Father's Day special. We missed an opportunity for Mother's Day already, but not this time. On top of that, Catch and Kiss is currently being pieced together by none other than yours truly. I do all the video editing for these projects and the episodes myself, aligning musical tracks, images, and voice, but it'd still be nothing without the great community we pulled together between Fiverr, YouTube, and Twitch. Not only a lot of great digital artists, professional musicians and voice actors, as well as known internet personas like Cirrus the Skeptic, and most recently, the Cytherian, aka Morningstar, has also shown interest in doing some voiceovers. Happy Pride Month, my bis, pans, and polyam fams. Alright, week 1 done and my blood is getting pumped. I'm getting fired up over here. Oops. So, for more projects and to be notified of new episodes, make sure to like, subscribe, and ring my bell. Also, swing by the Patreon. We've got a handful of great followers already. Here they are: Shadow Fox, Arya Gamari, Charles Tam, Jace Moreland, and Lundair Lumen. Also, on YouTube, we're well on our way to 1,200 subs. I'd love to get to 1,500 around the time Catch and Kiss drops. So just as a taste, here's some of the animation we'll be using this time around. I'm really appreciative of Sammy Carb's hard work and the return of our animator, Fallen Hoshi. I'm going to go ahead and list them in the description this week, along with our project artist, Kamabugbog. They really do fantastic work, and they've been indispensable for every single image this month. Their business is in the description, and they come highly recommended.